Remember that one scene from that one movie where the damsel in distress falls off a building, and the hero, hearing her dainty cry for help, rushes to her rescue and heroically catches her right before she hits the bottom? Yeah, in real life that would not turn out so well. There's no way that you could survive the extreme inertia that would come from going from terminal velocity to 0 miles per hour in so short an amount of time. If that hero knew anything about physics, he would know that in order to save her, he'd have to fly up to her, grab her by the waist, and gently bring her down in a parabolic fashion. And that, my friends, is physics.
I don't care about physics. All I care about is dancing and following whatever arbitrary trend is popular at the moment. What even is physics?
Well, you see, physics is the study of matter and energy and the way that they interact with each other. But what this really means is that physics is the study of the universe.
I don't care.
Your apathy infuriates me. Come on, physics is seriously pretty cool. It's a science that asks and attempts to answer all of the really big questions about how our world works. Why does gravity happen? Because the larger the mass of an object, the more it bends the fabric of space and time. How do a plane's wings work? By manipulating the flow of the air around them. Why is the sun so hot? Because it's literally pumping out 400 trillion watts of power from nuclear fusion per second. I mean, come on, that's awesome, right?
I guess the bit about gravity was kinda cool.
Oh, I'm so glad you're finally seeing the gravity of the situation. Anyway, putting that aside. Now you're probably thinking, but narrator, how is this relevant to my everyday life? How will this help me find a job?
Actually, I was thinking about corgis.
Shh, let me talk about physics. In terms of what careers physics will help you pursue, the answer is all of them.
All the careers?
Literally, all of them. Because you see, physics is relevant to everything. Like I said earlier, it's the study of the universe. And we live in the universe. So no matter what you choose to do with your life, physics will come into play. Obviously, you need to study it like crazy if you want to be something like a satellite engineer, or a particle physicist, or a laser fusion scientist. You know, all the jobs that make enormous amounts of money. But even if you want to be something that makes very little money, like, say, an artist, physics could still give you a leg up. Artists like me would benefit greatly from understanding how light and reflections work on a scientific level, and anyone interested in animation should know all of Newton's laws. And to anyone looking to be a writer, you must know how our world functions if you plan to create your own. Even fantasy authors. You gotta know the rules to break them. A construction worker or architectural engineer would need to understand how materials are affected by heat, light, and vibrations. A video game designer must understand how gravity, momentum, force, etc. all work before the graphics will look any good. Lawyers, doctors, weather reporters, TV producers, DJs. There are tons of jobs that would directly benefit from a background in physics. And almost every job imaginable would benefit indirectly, because taking a physics class is an excellent way to teach yourself critical thinking skills. What are critical thinking skills, you ask?
I do ask that.
Critical thinking is your ability to make rational, fair judgments based on facts, to distinguish between fact, opinion, and fallacy, to question the reliability of sources, and analyze both other people's arguments and your own to see if they really hold water. Critical thinking, in a nutshell, is your ability to think smart. It's also a skill that's in high demand, but that very few people can actually do well. If you take the time to become a good critical thinker, you have just made yourself into an extremely valuable employee. Now the problem is, good thinking skills are possible to learn, but really hard to teach. You can't just spend the whole class on your phone and copy off your classmates on every assignment and then leave the class thinking, why am I not a super wealthy science genius yet? I swear, this teacher doesn't even teach. No, you need to put some effort into learning. If you want to reap the full benefits of this class, you need to pay attention, ask questions, and really think about the concepts being presented rather than just relying on memorization. For example, let's say you're working on projectile motion. You're taught the basics, and then asked questions that force you to practice logical thinking using what you've just learned, and then you have to actually use it in a real-life hands-on task. Specifically, you'll get to make a catapult out of a mousetrap and a spoon and shoot things into a castle. Which is super awesome and educational. And if you're actually putting effort into what you're doing, this whole setup is a great way to exercise your thinking skills.
Wait a minute, there's math in here. I hate math.
Well, yeah, there's some math involved, but if all you're doing is taking Physics 1, the math is usually pretty easy. It just describes a relationship between a couple of things, like the relationship between force, mass, and acceleration. Net force equals mass times acceleration, which means bigger things that go faster will hit stuff harder. It's not rocket science, it's just Physics 1. If anything, the mathematical side just makes the conceptual side easier to understand. And if you're having trouble with something, don't just sit there quietly resenting the person who invented math. Raise your hand and ask for clarification, or visit after school. The teacher will gladly explain, and no one will judge you for asking for help. Except that guy. But he's a jerk, just ignore him.